found on page 117. 117. And if you feel like it and you're able to, please rise for Martin. Stephen, do we think this is not working?
It may not be. Alan was having trouble hearing. So.
Put that nearer. I mean, oh, I heard an echo then, but I'm not sure. Okay, well, let me know if you need. Just checking. We don't seem to have audio. I don't know why it's. There we are. I left the audio fully, which we hadn't done before. That may make a difference. We're at the foot of page 117. Let's read together. We thank you, O God, for this new day, for morning sun and evening star, for flowering of tree and flowing of tide, for life-giving rains and cooling breezes, for the changing seasons, for the cycle of growth and decay, of life and death. We awake and behold a new day, O God. Renew us unto life. Teach us to recognize your presence in creation. Grateful for your gifts, may we dedicate all our powers to your service. Now on page 118, I'm going to chant the brachot. Feel free to join in. I do it in the major. Some of the rabbis we have do it in the minor. I've been told that I'm right. That traditionally, the Nusach for Shabbat morning should be the major, and the other one is weekday. So it's a mix-up of that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzaki. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, anoten la'ayav koach. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, amar v'yishena u'menai, utnu mama me'afapai. One more line. Baruch she'amar v'haya haolam, Baruch hu. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, המגולל בפי עמו, משובע מפורע בשון חסידיו ועבדיו. בשבחות ובזמירות, נגד לך ונמליך לך, מלכנו יגיד העולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מגולל בתשבחות. Would someone like to read the poem, the foot of 119 and 120? Someone willing to do that? And yeah? Yeah, come and do it, Stephen. Come do it up here. So it's the bottom of the page and the top of the next page.
With the coming of day and night, I will enter the covenant of God, and when evening and morning depart, I will recite God's decrees. God Most High, you are my righteousness. You teach me goodness. You are the fountain of knowledge, the dwelling place of holiness, and the summit of glory. Eternal might and majesty are yours. I will choose whatever you teach me, gladly accepting your judgments. As soon as I move my hands and feet, I will praise your name, when I go out and when I come in, when I lie down and when I rise up. When I rest on my bed, I will sing your praise, and in the company of my friends, I will praise you with the words of my mouth.
Thank you, Stephen. So the foot of 120, Miss Moshe Liyom Yom HaShabbat. Tov lechodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lahagid baboker chazdecha, ve'emunatcha b'leilot, ale asor v'ale navel, ale higayon bechino, ki simchatani Adonai b'foaleha, b'maseh yadecha amen, magadlu maseh Adonai, me'adam ku makshavoteha, tzadik atama yifka, ka'eres balvanon yizkeh, shetolim b'veit Adonai, b'chasrot Eloheinu yafrichu. Od yenuval b'seva, l'shenim v'rananim iyo lagid, ki yashar Adonai zori v'lo avlatabo. Please rise. Yishtabak shimcha le'ad malkeinu, ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol v'ha'kadosh, v'shamayim u'va'aretz, כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו, ואלוהי אבותינו, שיר ושפחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. And on page 135.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach
le'olam va'ed. Be seated. Top of 136. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzeh or uvarei choshech, oseh shalom uvarei et hakol. המאיר לארץ ולדרים עליך רחמים, וכתובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה וראשית. מה רבו מעשיך אדוני, כולם בחוכמה עשית, ולך הארץ כנניך. תתברך אדוני אלוהינו, על שבח מעשה ידיך, ועל מורה אור שעשית, יפרוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצא המורות. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love all of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael b'ahava. We praise you, O God, in love you have called your people Israel to serve you. And I thought we would turn to the full Shema for a change on page 539, because I'm going to talk about the Shema later, and I thought it would be helpful to look at the full one. So do have a think about the first line and what it might mean, and then what we'll do is we'll do the first two lines, and then we'll ask you to read the rest silently before we turn back for. No, Montesquieu is at the bottom of 541. Okay, so 539. So as you wish, sitting or standing, it is in your hands, as it were. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol mo'adecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mesavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibata b'han בשבתها בביתך ובלגתך בדרך ושוקבך ובקומך ושתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. Continue in the silence. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, הייתם קדושים לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, Ani Adonai Elohechem Emet. And you can turn back now to page 138. In the middle of 138. And please be seated if you're not already. Emet v'yatzi v'yashar v'kayam v'tov v'yafa ha'davah hazeh alenu le'olam va'ed. Emet she'atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu. Malkeinu melech avotenu yotzrenu tzur yeshurastenu. Podenu masilenu me'olam hu shmecha. Ein Elohim zolatecha. Emet atahu rashon v'atahu acharon umibaladecha ein lanu Moshiach. מצרים גאלתנו אדוני אליכנו, מבית עבדים פריתנו, משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך אנו שירה, שמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם. מי כמוה באים אדוני, מי כמוה נדע בקודש, נורא יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלך לעולם ועד זו ישראל ומה בעזרת ישראל גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני God Israel. Turn to the Amidah 140. Please rise if you're able to. This is university said standing up, but obviously if you ever can't, feel free to sit. Adonai Sefatai Tivta Ufia Gita Hilate Adonai Sefatai Tivta Ufia Gita Hilate Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu, Emotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, וזורכך עשי אבות ואמהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומשיח ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני בחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומרית הגשם, מזריע השמש ומרית הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומק נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים מאמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבולות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לך חיות מתים ata Adonai mechayei hametim.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, ככתוב על יד נביאך, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ, כבודו, כבודו, מלא עולם, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לה. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבח אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Feel free to sit or continue standing to the end of the Amdah as you choose. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good. 1, 4, 3. Yismahu b'malchutcha, Yismahu b'malchutcha, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg, Amekadshei Shvi'i, Amekadshei Shvi'i, Kulam Yisba'u v'yitangu mituveha, v'hashvirat sitabo v'kidash tov, v'hashvirat sitabo v'kidash tov, chemdat yamim oto karata, zecher l'maaseh v'reishit. Eloheinu v'elehei avotenu v'tzevinu chatenu, kadashenu b'mitzvotecha, v'ten chelkeinu b'toratecha, sabeinu mituvecha, v'samcheinu v'shuatecha, v'tachel libeinu, lihovdecha be'emet, v'hanchilenu, Adonai Eloheinu, be'ahava u'v'rason, Shabbat kodshecha, v'yinuchu v'Yisrael, Mekadshei shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh haShabbat. 1, 4, 4. V'seh Adonai Eloheinu b'amcha Yisrael, u'tfilatam b'achava u'tkabel, u'tchil ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yira na'avod. Modim anaknu la, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu, ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. צור חיינו מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונצבע תהילתך על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל לפתיך טובתך שבכל יום ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך ולך נאה לחדות. שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים שלום טובה וברכה. חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו על כל ישראל עמך. שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים שלום טובה וברכה. ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד באור פניך, כי באור פניך נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו. שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים שלום טובה וברכה. תורת חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה, ברחמים וחיים ושלום הגון. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל ואת כל העמים, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים שלום טובה וברכה. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה ושלום. Please be seated in a moment of silent prayer. Shalom, shalom, imama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Oseh shalom, shalom, imama, יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. We're going to do the theme reading today. We don't always do it, but I thought this was quite a good one. Not to say that any of them are bad, but I think there is some variation. So it's the theme of reconciliation, which occurs in the Torah between Joseph and his brothers, but is expanded here more widely. Would anyone like to come and read some of it? It's 202, sorry. It's 202. Everyone's like, I want to check what it is before I agree to read it. Is anyone willing to come up and read? Pardon? Yeah, sure.
Would you come and do it up here, Maria?
It's quite a lot. I start coughing in the middle of the night.
We'll forgive you. Yeah, and the people can read the responsive bits. So.
That's quite.
That will-
Thank you for that. Yeah. Joseph said to his brothers, "Come closer to me." And they came closer. Then he said, "I'm your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now do not be distressed, so you sold me here, for God sent me ahead of you to preserve life." And he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. And only then were they able to speak to him. "And now forgive, we beg you, transgressions of the servants of the God of your father. Every day wrongs are done between husband and wife, parent and child, brother and sister, between races, creeds, and the nations. Harsh words are spoken and charitable judgments made, grievances nursed. Every day, in the absence of forgiveness, bitterness grows deeper. Help us, O God, to break out of this vicious circle, which can only lead to misery, the misery of those with whom we are in conflict and our own. Make us see that right is fairly only on one side, even though it be our own. Teach us to be self-critical, to restrain our anger, to swallow our pride, to moderate our demands, to make concessions, to be generous, but to forgive, to accept forgiveness. When two people had quarreled, Aaron would go and sit with one of them and say, "My child, do you realize what your neighbor is doing? He's tormenting himself and tearing his clothes and saying, 'I'm so ashamed that I offended him.' And they would sit with him until he had drained all anger out of his heart. Then Aaron would go and do the same to the other man. Later, when the two met, they would embrace and kiss each other." Hillel said, "Be all the disciples of the other, having peace and pursuing peace, leaving your fellow men and women, drawing them near to your Torah." For transgressions between ourselves and God, the Day of Atonement atones. But for transgressions between one human being and another, the Day of Atonement does not atone unless they have reconciled one another. If your fellow beings wrong they have done, then you may pray and your sins will be pardoned. And now, my children, I beg you, love one another. Drive hatred out of your hearts. Love one another in deed, word, and thought. Love one another from the heart. And if anyone sins against you, speak to them the word of peace. If others speak ill of you, do not respond in kind. Let even grave offense seem slight to you. If you haven't spoken ill of others, let even slight offense seem grave to you until you have gone to them and apologize. There are 4 types of person: easily provoked, easily appeased, their strength is cancelled by their weakness. Hard to provoke, hard to appease, their weakness is cancelled by their strength. Hard to provoke, easy to appease, the way of the saintly. Easily provoked, hard to appease, the way of the wicked. Who is the greatest hero? One who turns an enemy into a friend. May we be among those who are hard to provoke and easy to appease. May be an influence for peace in the world, and so bring nearer the time of the ultimate reconciliation.
Thank you, Maria. Before we sing the final song, just to say a couple of things that. No, you can sit down. The stuff about Hillel, about Aaron, Aaron being a peacemaker, that's not in the plain Peshat of the Torah. It's in rabbinic writings, and it's associated with Hillel. Hillel's the one that's usually saying Aaron is like this, and it seems like Hillel reads Aaron as like himself. Hillel is a peacemaker. Hillel is always one humbles himself in order to make peace, and he reads that back into the Torah.
And the second thing I thought was interesting, in that last bit of Hebrew, 205, who is the greatest hero? One turns into enemy into a friend. I mean, so Ezehu Gibor Shehagiborim, so who is the hero of heroes? Misha Ose Sono Ohavo. I think that means literally turns the enemy into a lover. Ohav is into his lover, rather than that would be Haver. So it's quite strong, and I think this is a kind of key to Judaism's kind of countercultural message that like strength is not how it's normally understood. It's about, so it says this before, who is strong, who restrains themselves, who is rich, the person that's happy with what they've already got, who is a hero, one turns the enemy into a lover or a friend. It's the opposite to normal heroic culture. So I think that's that's the kind of rabbinic message of peacemaking and humility that Hillel embodies. We'll sing at the bottom, Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Great, so we'll turn to 481 for our Torah service. And that is on page, as I said, 481. En kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'en kamaseha malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimlach le'olam va'ed Adonai oz le'mo yiten Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlul Adonai iti, Loma Shemo, Yachtav, Lach Adonai, Hagdula, V'hagvura, V'hatiferet, V'hanetzach, V'hahod, V'hanetzach, V'hahod, Kichol V'shamayim, Lecha Adonai hamamlecha v'mitnaseh lehol lerosh. Thank you. Please feel free to be seated. We have, before you do your Torah blessings, I'll just say we're reading from Parashat Vayehi, which is the last parasha of Sefer Bereshit, the book of Genesis. Has everyone got text already? We were over-optimistic in our printing, but better that way. And we've already heard about the theme of reconciliation. So it's the coming together of the family of Jacob before Jacob dies. So Jacob knows his days are numbered, and people come to him for blessings. And the section we'll be reading is about Joseph bringing his sons Ephraim and Manasseh to Jacob for a blessing. They're very little. I mean, it says they're sitting on Joseph's knee. So they really are young, and it uses the word na'arim, which is translated as the lads, or the youths, or the kids, or whatever. They're young. So it's quite touching. Then he blesses all the sons in a variety of ways, some nicer than others. And then he demands that he should be buried in Eretz Yisrael, and he should be brought back there. And Joseph promises to do that, and at the end Joseph dies and is buried in Egypt in a very Egyptian manner, in a coffin,
which shows how different he is. But we're reading from the first part of the parasha, not the very, very first part. You've already got the reference. It's Genesis 48, 1 chapter to Genesis 49, 1. Okay, so Janet, Simcha Bat Esther? Tamod, Simcha Bat Esther lekriyat haTorah.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher b'cha b'chabonu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. ויהי אחרי הדברים האלה ויאמר ליוסף הנה אביך חולה ייקח את שני בניו עמו את מנשה ואת אפרים ויגד ליעקב ויאמר הנה בנך יוסף בא אליך ויתחזק ישראל וישב על המיטה ויאמר יעקב אל יוסף אל שדי נראה אלי בלוז בארץ כנען ויברך אותי ויאמר אלי הנני מפרך והביטך ונתתיך לקהל עמים ונתתי את הארץ הזאת לזרעך אחריך אחוזת עולם ואתה שני בנך הנולדים לך בארץ מצרים עד באו אליך מצריה לי הם אפרים ומנשה ראובן ושמעון יהיו לי ומולדתך אשר חולדת אחרים לך יהיו על שם אחיהם יקראו בנחלתם ואני בבואים פדן מתה עלי רחל בארץ כנען בדרך בעוד כברת ארץ לבוא אפרתה ואקרבה שם בדרך אפרת היא בית לחם ויה ישראל את בני יוסף ויאמר מי אלה? ויאמר יוסף אל אביו בניהם אשר נתן לי אלוהים בזה ויאמר לכם נא אלי בעברכם ועיני ישראל כבדו מזקן לא יוכל לראות ויגש אותם אליו וישק להם ויחבק להם ויאמר ישראל אל יוסף ראה פניך לא פללתי והנה הרואה את אלוהים גם את זרעך ויוצא יוסף את אתם מאים ברחב והשתחוו לאפיו ארצה ויקח יוסף את שניהם את אפרים בימינו משמאל ישראל ואת מנשה בשמאלו מימין ישראל ויגש אליו וישלח ישראל את ימינו וישת על ראש אפרים והוא הצעיר את שמאלו על ראש מנשה סיכל את ידיו כי מנשה הבחור ויברק את יוסף ויאמר האלוהים אשר התהלכו אבותיי לפניו אברהם יצחק ויצחק האלוהים הרואה את מאודי עד היום הזה המלאך הגואל את מכל רע יברק את הנערים ויקרא בהם שמי ושם אהבתי Abraham ויצחק normally Yaakov because it's Yaakov speaking so of course it's not וידגו לרוב בקרב הארץ ויה יוסף כי יסית אביו יד ימינו על ראש אפרים ויה בעיניו ויתמוך יד אביו
להסיר אתה מעל ראש אפרים על ראש מנשה. ויאמר יוסף על אביו, לא כן אבי, כי זה הבכור, Shem. We've got Sim. A letter's been written in. There was obviously a mistake and someone's worked on it. So here, Bechor, Sim Yimincha al Rosho, Yamaen Aviv, V'yomer Yadati Beni, Yadati, Gam Hu Yihye La'am, V'gam Hu Yigadel, V'ulam Achav, Hakaton Yigadel Mimenu, V'zaro Yihye Melo Hagoyim, V'yivarachem, V'yom Hahu Le'emor, Bach Yivarecha Yisrael Le'emor, Yisimcha Elohim Ke'Ephraim U'K'Manashe, V'shem et Ephraim Lifnei Manashe, V'yom Yisrael El Yosef, Hinei Anochi Met, V'haya Alehem Imachem, V'heshiv Etchem El Eretz Avotechem, V'ani Natati Lacha Shechem Echad Alechecha, Asher Lekachti Miyad Ha'emori, V'chibi U'Bekashti, V'yikra Yaakov El Banav, V'yomer Ha'asfu, V'agida Lechem Et Asher Yikra Etchem Acharit Hayamim. Maybe you can read the translation. Having said I would do it.
Okay. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Some time afterward, Joseph was told, "Your father is ill." So he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to see you," Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, "El Shaddai, who appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, blessed me and said to me, 'I will make you fertile and numerous, making of you a community of peoples, and I will assign this land to your offspring to come for an everlasting possession.' Now your two sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt shall be mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, no less than Reuben and Simeon. But progeny born to you after them shall be yours. They shall be recorded instead of their brothers in their inheritance. I do this because when I was returning from Padan, Rachel died, to my sorrow, while I was journeying in the land of Canaan, when still some distance short of Ephrath, and I buried her there on the road to Ephrath, now Bethlehem." Noticing Joseph's sons, Israel asked, "Who are these?" And Joseph said to his father, "They are my sons whom God has given me here. Bring them to me," he said, "that I may bless them." Now Israel's eyes were dim with age, he could not see. So Joseph brought them close to him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, "I never expected to see you again, and here God has let me see your children as well." Joseph then removed them from his knees and bowed low with his face to the ground. Joseph took the two of them, Ephraim with his right hand to Israel's left, and Manasseh with his left hand to Israel's right, and brought them close to him. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, although he was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, thus crossing his hands, although Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, saying, "The God in whose ways my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd from my birth to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all harm, bless the lads. In them may my name be recalled, and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and may they be teeming multitudes upon the earth." When Joseph saw that his father was placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he thought it wrong, so he took hold of his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's. "Not so, father," Joseph said to his father, "for the other is firstborn. Place your right hand on his head." But his father objected, saying, "I know, my son, I know. He too shall become a people, and he too shall be great. Yet his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall be plentiful enough for nations." So he blessed them that day, saying, "By you shall Israel invoke blessings, saying, 'God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh.'" Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, I am about to die, but God will be with you and bring you back to the land of your ancestors. And now I assign to you one portion more than to your brothers, which I wrested from the Amorites with my sword and bow. And Jacob called his sons and said, Come together, that I may tell you what is to befall you in days to come. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natar b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, notein haTorah.
Thank you, Shakaya. I find it very touching, that passage, the sort of the goodbye and the blessing. And I'm not saying it really happened, but whoever wrote it maybe had had lost a father and maybe brought something of that. There's a kind of a beauty to it, and I'll be talking about that last verse afterwards in case you want to think about that. Okay. Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato. Thank you. Okay, do we have a Torah reader? We do, fantastic. So, do you want to say anything about it, or should I just say something quickly? I don't have much to say, but other than this is another farewell. The link between the Torah and Haftorah. We had Jacob saying farewell, and now we have King David saying farewell and sort of passing on the torch to Solomon, to Shlomo, his son. We need to plug this in, Steve. Or do you know what that is? It's running out of battery. It doesn't matter if it runs out because it's in there. Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacha b'nivreim tovim v'ratza v'divarahem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe abdo u'v'Yisrael amor u'v'nivrei ha'emet v'tzedek. When David's life was drawing to a close, he instructed his son Solomon as follows: I am going the way of all the earth. You will be the man in charge. If you act with determination, keep the charge of the Eternal One your God, walking in God's ways and following God's laws, commandments, rules, and admonitions as recorded in the teaching of Moses, in order that you may succeed in whatever you undertake and wherever you turn. Then the Eternal One will fulfill the promise that was made concerning me. If your descendants are scrupulous in their conduct and walk before me faithfully with all their heart and soul, your line on the throne of Israel shall never end. Further, you know what Joab, son of Zeruiah, did to me, what he did to the two commanders of Israel's forces, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether. He killed them, shedding blood of war in peacetime, staining the girdle of his loins and the sandals on his feet with blood of war. So act in accordance with your wisdom, and see that this white hair does not go down to Sheol in peace. But deal graciously with the sons of Barzillai the Gileadite, for they befriended me when I fled from your brother Absalom. Let them be among those that eat at your table. You must also deal with Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjaminite from Bahurim. He insulted me outrageously when I was on my way to Mahanaim, but he came down to meet me at the Jordan, and I swore to him by God, I will not put you to the sword, so do not let him go unpunished. For you are a shrewd man, and you will know how to deal with him and send his grey hair down to Sheol in blood. So David rested with his ancestors, and he was buried in the city of David. The length of David's reign over Israel was 40 years. He reigned 7 years in Hebron, and he reigned 33 years in Jerusalem. And Solomon sat upon the throne of his father David, and his rule was firmly established. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, surah kol ha'olamim, Zadik b'chol ha'dodrot. Ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer v'oser ha'mdeber u'makayim shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah v'al ha'avoda v'al hinvi'im v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatei lanu Adonai Eloheinu l'kadesha v'limunatcha l'chavod ultif eret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachenu modim lach brachem otech yitbarech shimcha b'fi kol chai tamid la'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai hakadesh hashavat.
Thank you. So we're going to pray. We're going to continue with our prayers for state and community, which we're going to do the sort of traditional ones in the book. This time, people don't remember, but the custom of community members reading these prayers was actually first introduced by me when we were back in Bessborough Road, because I'm, as you probably know, not particularly monarchist or Zionist, so I wasn't particularly focused on myself reading those, so I was very happy to share that with others. So first of all, we're going to have the prayer for Britain. Who's reading that? Great, okay, and you've got it somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
There we are. Thank you. Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our monarch, King Charles, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity. Amen.
Thank you. And prayer for community, Paul? If you just pause at the midpoint now.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and members, and all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain.
And at this point, we'll think of anybody that you know who might be in need of healing.
My cousin Diana Ellis and our member Julia Lane.
My nieces Susanna and Jessica.
Anyone on Zoom? I thought at this point it's worth mentioning people that have lost their homes in Los Angeles to fires. Some have died, but many, many more lost their homes, which obviously makes us think of people in Gaza who have also lost their homes, and anyone around the world who is homeless or suffering in any way.
Yeah.
Can we remember Rabbi Rachel, who is not well?
Oh, I didn't know that. Yes, thinking of you, Rachel, if you're listening.
Yeah, I mentioned my neighbour, Michael Redhouse, who is very sick.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and the sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule keep you free. And may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
Amen. Thank you. And we've got Israel. We're going to do the one in the book once.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, to bring back the hostages, and to preserve Israel as a secular democratic state that obeys laws, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Amen. Thank you. So we're on page 486.
Ya Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemor levado, hodo aleretz v'shamayim, v'yarem keren le'amu, te'ila lechol hasidav, livnei Yisrael, Am karovo, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Page 489.
Ki lechatov natati lahem, Torati al tazovu, Eitz chayim hi lemachazikim bo, v'tomahem meushor, de'echad v'chol netivoteha, shalom, hashivenu Adonai edeha v'nashur chadesh yameinu kekedem chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Thank you. Please be seated. So I haven't got a written out sermon, but there's still something, and we're gonna start with the text, have a discussion, and finish with the text, and hopefully it will be interesting. So the text we're going to start with is a short bit of Talmud from Pesachim. I've got a handful of copies if anyone wants to look, but you don't need to. So I'll just put it there if anyone wants to have a look. And it's a commentary on the last verse that we read, where Jacob says to his sons, "I will show you what will happen in the later times." And it sounds like he's talking about what's going to happen to you in your lives, to his sons, but the rabbis take it a little differently. I'll read in Hebrew and then translate as I go. Da'amar, or Aramaic. Da'amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, "Vayikra Yaakov al banav vayomer hasifur agidu lachem." And he called his sons together to speak to him. Bikesh Yaakov lagalut lavanav ketz hayamin. Jacob was about to tell his sons what would happen at the end of days when the Messiah is going to come. Right? How exciting is that going to be? But then suddenly the divine presence of Shekhinah left him. So he wasn't able to do that. The divine presence stopped him. And Jacob says, Amar, Shema chas v'shalom yesh b'mistati pasul, ka'avraham sheyetze mimenu Ishmael, va'avi Yitzhak sheyetze mimenu Esav. So Jacob says, what has happened? Maybe one of my descendants is impure. One of my children is a bad one. Just as Abraham had Ishmael, and just had Isaac had Esau. So maybe that's why the divine presence has left me. So maybe there's something wrong with my children. And maybe he's worried that they've assimilated and they're not going to follow the old ways, or something like this. And but his children say to him, what do they say? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Now, if you think about this, they've changed the meaning of a key word here, because they say Shema Yisrael, which normally means us, or the Jewish people. What does it mean here? Jacob. It's the other name of Jacob. Okay, so they're saying, listen up, Dad. Shema, your God is our God, right? Something like that. Because that's not the original meaning of it. It's found in the book of Deuteronomy. It's later, but the rabbis here are reading it back, as if the sons say it to him to reassure him. And they continued, Imru, Kashem she'en bilbacha ele echad, Just kach en bilvenu ela achad. Just as there's one in your heart, there is one in our hearts. Presumably that means one God, or they're using one as a name for God, or something like that. Just as God is one for you, God is one for us. באותה שעה פתח יעקב אבינו ואמר ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. And Jacob feels very reassured by this, and he says, the second line of our Shema, ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. Blessed be the holy name forever. So that's, the rabbi is explaining how we get that second line, because that second line, ברוך שם כבוד, is not in Torah. And that's why we say it in a traditionally quietly, because it's not it's an addition. And they're saying, it's Jacob said out of relief that his sons are going to continue the tradition. So on that theme, both of the Shema and of wondering whether we or our children are good enough, which we all do, or are Jewish enough, which we all do, I think, I want to talk about something about mezuzahs. And the reason is because I recently was thinking about mezuzahs and what I was going to do. And before I talk about what I chose to do, what I'd be really interested to hear from you is what you do vis-a-vis mezuzahs. And there's no judgment either way, but like, do you have a mezuzah on your house? Do you have more than one mezuzah on your house? If so, what is inside them, and where did you get it from? Those are my questions. So anyone want to chip in and let me know what you do? And there's no right or wrong, I want to say. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got one on the front door, which my mum and dad gave us when we moved into the house. I'm sure it's got a kosher, whatever bit is inside. And then we've got them on the lounge door and the dining room, but never quite got around to upstairs.
Okay. And they've all got what you think is that.
Yes, they've all got the kosher.
Okay, all right. Others? Thank you, Roz. Yeah.
We have two, one on our porch door and then one on the sort of inner front door.
Okay.
But not in the rest of the house.
And what's inside?
It's the kosher. They're probably not.
Okay, thank you.
And they came from Israel.
Okay. Okay.
We got a new front door, so we needed to get a new mezuzah because it needed to stick on rather than the old one that was screwed in.
Okay.
So we went to one of the shops in Edgware and brought one for the front door, and there was a very beautiful one that was like an indoor, beautiful glass one which I also needed. So there's one on the lounge, and they both got the prayer in.
Okay.
And we bought for the girls for their new houses, and again, you know, we paid the 60 quid for the kosher parchment.
Okay.
The fiver or something.
But just on the front door, not necessarily on all the
yeah,
doors.
both of them, just the front.
Okay.
And
Okay.
plus, also on the kids' bedrooms when they were younger, when they had their own bedrooms. They
Nice.
had their own.
Okay, lovely. Anyone else want to? Yep.
My understanding is also you're supposed to check, particularly on the outdoor mezuzahs, the inside parsha to make sure the weather hasn't weathered them, that some brings maybe disappeared.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else want to? Go.
We have one on the front door and one on every room that is theoretically suitable for sleeping.
That's what?
That's suitable or would be suitable for sleeping in.
Ah.
So anything that's classic.
Is that a halacha, or is that your own?
Yeah, it is. We're not exactly doing it, but yes, that's the halacha. There is a thing, a rule around the.
If it could be slept in.
The size that the room has to
Uh-huh.
have. So you could theoretically, I think it used to have to do with you could theoretically sleep in it, but it certainly has to have a certain size, but I don't remember what it was.
So if you gave your child a box room and didn't put on mezuzah, your child should complain to you, I want a bigger room, or something like that. Okay.
I just said they had to have one on the bathroom because the cat loves to sleep in the bathroom.
Yeah, no, traditionally you don't have one in the bathroom, like that I knew, but I didn't know the thing about sleeping. Okay. Anyone else want to say anything?
Just one on the front door. Just with the Shema inside. Yeah.
Sorry?
One on the front door is a flat anyways.
Yeah. And you bought it, you bought the kind of...
We bought the lot because in the place in Golders Green, which was supposed to be the place, so they...
If it's in Golders Green, you know, it's obviously great. Anyone else want to...
Yeah, I just wanted to say we had a mezuzah fixing ceremony when we moved in, and I was very touched because several friends gave
a mezuzah case with mezuzah written in it as presents. So, you know, when I look at them and I go in and out of the doors, it reminds me of them. And I also want to say when I lived in Harleston, somebody stole the mezuzah from outside the door, and I put another one there, and that was taken as well, so I thought, this isn't going to work, so I just had them inside the house.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's life, isn't it?
Seems ridiculous. Anyone else, or are we good? Well, you're a mezuzah using lots in the main, which is great. Mostly front doors, but a little bit inside as well. So maybe I'm a bit odder, but, as you will see. But that's interesting. I wanted to kind of see what your practice was. So when I grew up, when I was young, I don't think we had one. I grew up in a liberal school, Southgate Progressive. I don't think our rabbi had one either, which was a source of complaint by some congregants, because as you know, many Jews like rabbis to do things that they don't do themselves. We pay the rabbi to observe things, right? But at a certain point in my childhood, I think as a teenager, me and my mum decided to get one, and and maybe this is just us. At the time we were buying it, we thought that was quite expensive to buy the scroll. So we were like, well, we'll just do it ourselves. So me and my mum just wrote it out on paper and put it in. I'm very, very happy. Later on, when I was a young man and a bit of a hothead, living in Moisture House, we all had an event where we put on mezuzahs on our individual room doors. And I decided I wasn't going to put anything in the mezuzah, and to make this clear, I wrote on the front of my mezuzah, this mezuzah has nothing inside, full stop, nothing is sacred. So that was where I was. And when we moved into my current house some 5 years ago, I did put a mezuzah on the front door, and didn't think too carefully about exactly what was inside, but I think it's something that came with the mezuzah. But as I subsequently realised, sometimes mezuzahs come with a photocopy. So it may have that, I don't know. But anyway, recently I thought it would be a nice Hanukkah present for Mika, my daughter, to get her a mezuzah for her room. And I wanted to get a personalised one with her name on it, so I commissioned a case. But again, me being cheap, it seemed quite a lot for the case, and to tick the box to get the kosher scroll, that seemed quite a lot. So I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. I'll think about it when it arrives. So and then it arrived, and I had to think about it. And I had a question. It's like, well, firstly, what do I want to go in it? Maybe I want to write something else. Maybe I want to write a different text, because I wasn't sure. And then I researched what is the text, and I know, and then of course it's the Shema, and it's not quite all the Shema. It's not a bit about the tzitzit at the end, but it's the full Shema minus that, and it's about the bit that references mezuzot. So I came to like that the commandment to have mezuzah, you write that in the mezuzah itself, which is quite meta, and I came to quite like that, and I should say at this point that I'll say it afterwards. And so then I had to think about how am I going to write it, and I had to look up the laws because most people, if you just buy a kosher one, you don't think about it, right? You just trust in them. But I'm not like that for some reason. I wanted to do it myself. So the rule is about the material, that you're supposed to do it on animal skin, basically, and it's the same as Torah's. Now, as a lifelong vegetarian and vegan, I was never going to do that. There is a company in Israel which sells what is called clough, this material, and it sells what it calls vegan clough from a plant, and I'm not sure, I don't think Orthodox rabbis would authorise that, but some rabbis perhaps would. So it's a kind of papyrus, it's a kind of material that's like that. So I didn't do that. And the second rule is you're supposed to do it in the scribal font, the same as that we do in the Torah. So I decided that I wasn't going to do either of those things, because I drew it on paper, and then I had a question and I asked a few rabbis, like Anthony and Daisy, what do you reckon, cursive or block? Anthony said block, Daisy said cursive. Cursive was easier, I can write cursive quite quickly, block takes me ages.
But still, it was quite a labour of love, writing out the Shema in cursive, and I used the word placement that's traditional, so where the line ends, which I think is taken from the Torah. So I copied it from a source, and I quite enjoyed that process about thinking what I was writing, and that was quite meaningful. And it just struck me that, do many people do this? Most people presumably either just buy it from the shop, the kosher version, or they don't do mezuzah at all. And that kind of middle position, where you kind of interrogate rituals and trying to think about how you're going to do it, seems quite interesting to me, and maybe quite liberal, or maybe quite... It was certainly useful for me, and it may not be useful for others, but I kind of... That seems to me to relate to that question of, like, are we good enough? Are we Jewish enough? How are we going to be Jewish? How are we going to do Jewish? And I think next time, because I've now got one in the front door and one on Mika's room, I'd like to have some more, and I think my next step is going to be to get a plant material that's a bit more like a scroll, and I think I might try and learn the sofrut, the scribal font. It doesn't look so hard, it doesn't look so impossible. I could get myself a fountain pen and do something like that. So I think, and that feels like a skill that we shouldn't, as liberal Jews, shouldn't contract out to the Orthodox. Like, it's crazy if only Orthodox people could do those things. Like, we know Hebrew, we can write, why shouldn't we do those things for ourselves? And a mezuzah or tefillin are the easiest starting points. You don't want to start with a Torah, obviously. But it's a short document, and I think that's something we could all do. And finally, I just want to think about the meaning in there, because as you alluded to, many people see it as a kind of amulet, really, that will bring you good luck. And this custom of checking the mezuzah to see if there's something wrong with it, from what I can ascertain, that began with Chabad in the 70s, and that's quite Kabbalistic. I don't really hold by it, because that seems a bit magical. Like, things will go better in your life if only you can correct the parchment. I prefer a kind of more rationalist, Maimonidean approach that the mezuzah is there to remind us of the words inside and the actual meaning of inside.
You see, I don't think it's for us at all. I think it's for others. It's to identify a house as a Jewish home. So whenever I go abroad, I mean, I found myself in New Jersey, and I was walking around. And I saw mezuzahs on the house.
Yeah.
And it was an important sign. So I don't think it's for us at all.
Well, it certainly functions like that. When I lived in Moshe House, people came asking for charity. Orthodox Jews. Chassan, right?
But that's the only one I can understand.
No, but I'm just, yes, you're right. And it is used like that. But if it was only for that, we wouldn't need to put anything inside, would we? We could just have the case with a shin on it for Shaddai. So there's something internal.
Well, I don't really understand why we put anything inside.
Well, that's what we're talking about, right?
Because nobody, well, I've never opened mine.
But that's, in a way, maybe the kind of the joy of what I'm talking about, of doing rituals for yourself, that you actually do engage with the internal, and maybe there's a metaphor for the external world and the internal community, and there, and how we think about it. So I just want to think about the Shema to close. So think about the first line, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. So we talked about Yisrael before. So Shema, hear, listen. I mean, kind of the word hearken in Old English, like also follow, obey, is in there too. Yisrael, so we said it can mean Jacob, it can mean the Jewish people, but to break it down, it can also mean those that wrestle with God. God wrestlers, okay? Okay, so El is the God. So El. Adonai Eloheinu, of course it's not Adonai, it's Yud He Vav He. So Yud He Vav He is Elohim, is our God. Yud He Vav He is either one or only. Only Yud He Vav He. Okay? It means one of those things. So that begs the question, what is Yud He Vav He? The Tetragrammaton, which we're not supposed to say. And in a way, it's a mix of the verb to be in all tenses, past, present, and future. V'hu hayai, v'hu hovei, v'hu yiyeh b'tifaraz. We say it in Donna Long. God was, God will be, and God is and will be in the future. And it's an impossible mix of those things. And Rabbi Arthur Waskow famously said, he did this very theatrically, I'm going to say the name of God. And he just breathed. And if you think about how the sounds are, Yud, Hey, Vav was probably more like an Uwa, and then Hey, there's no hard sounds. Yahweh, Yahweh, something like that. And it is just sound. And I think we can connect those two senses of the verb to be and breath to think maybe it's all being, in the sense of Yud He Vav He is all being. And if that's right, then godliness is in all being, all human being, all animal being, in all nature, and that we can damage the face of God. We can damage God by damaging any of those aspects. And if you think that God is only part of being, then that is not to fulfill the Shema. That is not to fully believe in the wholeness, the oneness of Yud He Vav He, of divinity. And I'm going to close by reading a text by Marcia Falk, who's a modern Jewish poet. This is from the Book of Blessings. And she wrote an alternative Shema. I'll just read the first bit in Hebrew, and then I'll read it in English. The first bit says, Shema Yisrael le'elohut alfei panim, malo olam shechinata ribui panecha echad. Hear, O Israel, the divine abounds everywhere and dwells in everything. The many are one. And she continues, and I'll just read it in English. So it's obviously from Vathafta at the beginning. Loving life and its mysterious source with all my heart and all my spirit, all my senses and strength, I take upon myself and into myself these promises. To care for the earth and those who live upon it. To pursue justice and peace. To love kindness and compassion. I will teach this to our children through the passage of the days. I dwell in my home as I go on my journeys. From the time I rise until I fall asleep. And may my actions be faithful to my words, that our children's children may live to know. Truth and kindness have embraced. Peace and justice have kissed and are one. So beautiful echoes of the traditional text made into something new, all in Hebrew and in English. So I will leave it there, but hopefully that's some interesting thoughts both about the Shema and us and how we do Judaism, whether we are in fact good enough, which I think we certainly all are. I'm going to leave it there, and we're going to conclude our service because I can see the time is getting running out. So please turn to page 520 for the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשה יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, ועלינו אין עוד. הלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשיבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. And the foot of the next page, 521. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Creator of the universe, you give us life in which joys and sorrows are commingled in accordance with your wisdom, and you send death with its promise of eternal peace. Teach us to accept humbly and courageously whatever burden is laid upon us. Comfort those who mourn, and let the light of faith illumine the darkness of their sorrow with hope of immortality. Strengthen us at all times with unfailing trust in your providence. And at this weekend, we remember the following who have yahrzeits. Matilda Fiegel, grandmother of Gideon Fiegel. Sidney Kessler, husband of Irene Kessler. Stella Matlin, mother of Janet Solomon. Frida Minsberg, mother of Jacqueline Kaplan. Brigitte Phillips, wife of Mark Phillips. Are there any other names anyone would like to mention? Wish you long life, Janet. And then let's say, in their memory and the memory of everyone who's died around the world, in all countries, and those that died at this time in years gone past, we read the Kaddish together on 524. Yikadal v'yitkadosh shemei Rabbah, ve'olma divrach yotei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayeh v'kol beis Yisrael, v'aglav zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah, v'rach le'olam u'lamei amaya. Yitbarah v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitmamam v'yitnaseh, v'yithada v'yithaleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudesha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol bichata v'shirata, tishbechata v'nechmata, damiran bi'olma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mrama, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol b'nei Adam v'imru amen. Please be seated.
So as you've probably noticed, Kevin isn't here this week. I've been doing my best to replace him, but I did sit in the same chair the whole service. Joseph, that was a really interesting service, so much to think about, and when I go back I shall be looking at my mezuzahs with fresh eyes, because I think you don't even notice them after a while. Stephen, thank you for doing the tech. Next Shabbat, Rabbi Daisy will be taking the service, and just a few things coming up. I'll keep it brief because we are running a bit late. On the 1st of February, we've got Mental Health Awareness Shabbat, followed by a Kiddush lunch, and Dr. Leon Rosevitz will be speaking at the lunch afterwards. I know it's going to be really interesting and thought-provoking. Then coming back a bit, tomorrow we've got a panel discussion about Israel's wars and increasing anti-Semitism in the UK. Advanced registration is necessary. I don't know if it's too late now. And then on Monday we have film night. This month the film is The Odessa File, and that's just a couple of the very, very many events that are happening at Mosaic. Further details can be found on our excellent website or on these little pink flyers which are dotted around and about.
Thank you to Roz for shamasing so ably. We appreciate it. We'll conclude with Adon Olam. I presume that they're finished or nearly finished, you know?
It sounds like
Okay, so we'll do a quick Adon Olam then. That's fine. Page 525. Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem kol Yetzir Nivra Le'ed Nasar V'chefso kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'acharei Kiprot HaKol Lavado Yimlok Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hove V'hu Yeh B'tifara V'hu Echad V'ein Sheni L'hamshir Lo L'chakbira B'li Reshit B'li Taklit V'lo ha'oz V'chamizra V'hu Eli V'hai Goali V'tzorevli V'ein Sara V'hu Lisi U'manosli Agat Kosi Yom Ekabriyado Avkid Ruhi Be'et Isha Be'aira Be'in Ruhi Be'irati Adonai Li V'Lo'ira. Shabbat Shalom. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone who read. I don't know if we're going to do Kiddush. You want to do Kiddush for Zoom?
For Zoom, yeah.
Fantastic.
But do make your way out to the main Kiddush while I do Kiddush for Zoom, or you're welcome to stay, whatever. This is for everybody on Zoom. Kiddush. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, zodorotam berit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam. Yisheshet yamim asa Adonai, et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz, uvayom ha'shvi, Shabbat v'yinafash. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri ha'gofen. Amen. Chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone on Zoom. We're off to Kiddush. Thank you.
If I'm scary, it's fine.
Everyone's scary today.
Few young children find me scary, and they get over me. Not adults don't want to get over me, but some children generally, by the end, it's okay.
Yeah. Attending the service today. Yeah. Even though we missed quite a big part of it.
Great juice. This is great juice.